Hey there, Micah here, and welcome to the basics video for the Infusionsoft GoToWebinar integration. There's a couple really important points that you should understand, and that's what this video is for, but it'll also get you going with at least the most basic implementation. So first of all, let me just explain how this used to happen. The old way is you would go into GoToWebinar, you'd create your webinar, and they would give you a link, and you would send that webinar registration link or that invitation to register to everybody on your list. So even if you already know them, you're sending them a link for them to sign up again. Your customers would go to the GoToWebinar site and register, and you would have no record of that. So you don't actually get notified or a copy of those captures or whatever. And then the customer would receive webinar updates directly from GoToWebinar. So that's the old way. In the new way, or the way you do it with this integration, you still create the webinar in GoToMeeting. You then create that same webinar in the gateway, or at least enter the ID into the gateway, and then you're given a way to capture that into Infusionsoft. So the idea is you want to capture your lead into Infusionsoft first, and then from Infusionsoft you can send them into the webinar. And that means that since you're using Infusionsoft to capture them, you can do all the tagging and sequencing you want, and then just think of the webinar as a bonus action of whatever you wanted to do in the first place. So as you capture a lead, you can send them to a webinar. There's lots of different ways, and I'll go over those in another video, but it's important to note that you create the webinar, and then you make it in the gateway. Then the idea is you're capturing the lead into Infusionsoft first, and then as an action, you're sending them to GoToWebinar. So what that means is if you know them, you can simply post them into the webinar from Infusion, meaning apply an action set that puts them directly into the webinar. If you want them to have to click, you can send them an email that they would then click to be posted into the webinar. Or if you don't know them or don't have their data yet, you can either have a web form out there, a webinar registration form that is an Infusionsoft web form, or if they were to place an order through your order form or the shopping cart, that action could also put them into the webinar. Another interesting thing is because the webinar is just an action set, or the way you add people to the webinar is an action set, you can also have a sequence doing it down the road. So you could have them sign up for something and have the sequence actually add them to a webinar 60 days from now, or add them to a webinar every single month for the next 2 years, or however it is that you want to do it. That's the idea, though, is you capture them into Infusionsoft first, and then you can use an action set from a variety of different places to actually get them into the webinar. And then the idea is once they are in the webinar, they would receive regular webinar updates directly from GoToWebinar from then on, because it's just like the customer registered at GoToWebinar. That's essentially what we're doing, is we are taking the customer's information and we're adding them to that original webinar that you created.